Have you ever held back from sharing your ideas because you thought someone else was more qualified to lead, speak, or write? Welcome to Just Because You Think You Can't Doesn't Mean You Shouldn't. My name is Kathy Waterworth, and I am your host for this session. Let me start by thanking the organizers of Your Dreaming for allowing me to share my session. And of course, always thank you to the sponsors without whom these dreaming events would not exist. Normally, I would introduce myself next, but like the title has flipped around a common phrase, I'm flipping around the usual presentation order and we'll start with limits before I share my journey. This will be followed by some strategies that you can use, the benefits of using these strategies, and a final challenge to you. So let's start by rethinking limits. We are redefining the typical phrase of just because you can doesn't mean you should. You may feel overshadowed by seasoned Salesforce experts, maybe even by me, but everyone has something to contribute. Just because you think you can't do something in the Salesforce community doesn't mean you shouldn't actually try. If you embrace discomfort, think of it as the beginning of growth. Don't let others discourage you from trying. And then find some friends and colleagues that will support your efforts. I've only been in the ecosystem a relatively short time, but I have felt and still sometimes feel intimidated by the stars in the ecosystem. Even this doing this presentation, doing it virtually was one thing, but having to record it has been a slightly terrifying experience, especially since I'm not really all that great at these video screen capture recordings. So I'm hoping this works out well. Many of us hesitate to speak up or present because we feel that we don't have the right level of expertise. But remember, even the most recognized Salesforce leaders, including Salesforce product experts, started somewhere and faced, and sometimes still face, similar doubts. What are some of the common barriers? You fear you're not experienced enough, or what a lot of people call as imposter syndrome. You think you need to be perfect before you can do anything, and you compare yourself to these stars in the ecosystem. And do you realize that imposing these limits are actually holding back community innovation? Have you considered that your perspective, while it may be different, can inspire others to look at things from a different viewpoint or even inspire a new solution to an existing problem? By not sharing your journey, you might be denying the community of fresh insights and diverse experiences that only you can offer. You miss opportunities for personal and professional growth, possibly opportunities for travel. Your impact on the community for diversity and innovation. And you never know, your voice can drive a positive change in the ecosystem. I'll give you a story that I started a Salesforce Saturday group that connected people during the pandemic. And our first project, which was creating an experience site for our group, led to not only our group learning about building sites, but we were then also invited to present what we did and what we learned at our local admin user group. So it allowed our members to not only learn about experience sites in a fun way, but also learn presentation skills. Don't forget, the communities do thrive when every voice is heard. Now that we've talked about some limits, let me share my journey. So, way back in the olden days, I did get a degree in economics and accounting, but shortly after that, I got married and after working a few years, had children and became a stay at home mom. But all through that, I was volunteering with the Girl Guides. And once my children got older, I started volunteering in their schools and with the theater groups they were involved in. As they got older, I picked up a few the odd part-time job, including being a barista or administrator, and of course, more volunteering and community involvement even at that level. It wasn't until 2013 when my husband invited me to come with him to San Francisco that I first heard about Salesforce. So I tagged along. I really didn't have a clue what Salesforce was, but I did listen to the opening keynote while standing on Howard Street on some big screen policy that they had. Um, but sort of went, okay, sounds cool. And all I got an exhibition ticket for that year just so I could watch Huey Lewis perform at a lunchtime concert. Again in 2015, I tagged along. I still didn't understand what Salesforce was, but at least I knew about getting exhibition tickets. So I actually went in and saw a bunch of the vendors that were in there in the system. But it was still not clicking in that it was something my husband worked with, but I really didn't understand it. It wasn't until 2016, after my husband brought home a Trailblazer hoodie from Dreamforce of that year, that I actually got my very first playground. I've liked badges. Remember, I volunteered with the Girl Guides, and it was a fun thing to way to learn not only what my husband was doing, but, get an idea of what this Salesforce thing was all about. But I was just doing this for fun. It wasn't until almost 2 years later that I went, you know what? I can do this. So I decided to make a career as a Salesforce admin. It took a while, and getting a couple of certs, but I got my first brief job in 2019, about July of that year. And unfortunately, it was a brief job, but which ended just before Dreamforce of that year. But I did go to Dreamforce. I went on my own without my husband this time. And did I mention that I participated in an admin tip demo jam? You got to remember, I'm brand new. I was like going, I didn't even know what a demo jam was, and I'm up there doing a tip one. I won't tell you that I felt like there was another person that when she went up, I went, okay, she's the winner. She was. But it was still fun, and I still did it. It wasn't until, of course, after that, the pandemic hit, and it wasn't until 2021 where I was finally starting to get somewhere. I had picked up several more certifications in the interim, and just after getting my nonprofit cert, I got a phone call and landed my first solid subcontract position. Along the way, I also started learning Apex. Never dreamt I would be, Apex and developer. That was something my husband did, but I started learning it just to see if I could, and I was on my way. In 2022, I did my very first event presentation, Automation Dreaming, a virtual event, but I was still doing it. I also started Canada's first architect group, even though I myself wasn't an architect yet. And I volunteered on the credentialing team as well as taking RAD Part 2. And by the end of the year, I actually achieved application architect. In 2023, I started actually getting more acceptances to do presentations, including at TDX and London's Calling. Because I had completed RAD 2, I was able to become a RAD coach and became an Amplify board member. Last year, in 2024, I was honored with the title of Salesforce MVP. That also helped me get more speaking engagements, and then I took over as the True North Dreaming chair. And if you don't know what True North Dreaming is, it's Canada's first dreaming event that has been on a hiatus for about the last 5 years. So this year, we're working really hard to revive the community event. I am now 21 times certified, and my goal this year is to try to get more international speaking engagements outside of my comfort zone of North America. What will 2026 hold? Well, hopefully a second True North Dreaming. And but it's also time for me to consider, do I keep growing in the ecosystem or is it time for me to retire? So just as a brief summary, in my day-to-day job, I actually work as a remote administrator in the nonprofit world where I go in and help nonprofits who don't have enough power. As well as I lead a Salesforce Saturday, the architect group, and coaching and the education committee on Amplify. If you are interested, there's a link to my LinkedIn, but please, if you connect, please add a note in to say that you saw my name here. Oh, and by the way, I live in Toronto, just outside of Toronto, Ontario, in Canada. So, back to what we were talking about. You saw that there are limits people put on themselves, and I had those limits as well. I was afraid. So, but how do you get past it? How do I get to do all these other things? Well, you need to do some shifting of your mindset. So, embrace a trailblazer spirit, learning, sharing, and growing together. That part was easy for me because, like I said, I like badges. And look at challenges as learning opportunities. Start small, but at least start. Having a growth mindset that everything is a chance to grow is a great way to give yourself the courage to do things. And remember, it's not a race, it's a journey. So don't expect to reach the pinnacle on your first step. And some habits you can include is set a daily or weekly learning routine, seek some mentorship and or a support circle of a number of people. And don't forget to give back and provide support to others as well. Send that elevator down for the people who are coming up behind you. Take time to both reflect and celebrate your wins, no matter how small, and be kind to yourself about losses. You can always learn from something that has gone wrong and see what you can learn from them. Since Trailhead is about continuous learning and collaboration, this is a cornerstone of both professional and personal growth in the Salesforce world. And remember, every single step that you take is another step forward. Some strategies you can incorporate: get involved in your local Salesforce user groups or Salesforce Saturday groups or any other virtual groups. And don't restrict yourself to just one or your locality. If it interests you, if marketing interests you, if developer interests you, if architect interests you, join it. Don't have a local Salesforce user group? You can always apply to lead one. Go on the Trailblazer Groups page, and there's a little button there that says Start a Group. Or start your own Salesforce Saturday or Trailhead Tuesday group. They're not as restricted, and you don't have to apply to do them. You just figure out how to do it, find a place to hold it, or set it up virtually, and do it. Volunteer to speak at these groups. Even if you belong to one, just volunteer. They are a good place to practice giving presentations. And if you can't find one that's willing to take you on, hey, reach out to me. We're always looking for speakers. Uh, I'd be happy to accommodate you if we can get the timing to work. Be sure to attend all the community webinars, the Salesforce live events, and community dreaming events like Your Dreaming, True North Dreaming, or any of the other 50 plus dreaming events that happen throughout the year around the world. Apply to speak at these events. Um, and don't just keep yourself to ones that are near you. Apply anywhere. Uh, Apply to TDX, apply to Dreamforce. If you're in marketing, apply to Connections. And you may only start with a single submission to one of these, but try to build up a repertoire that includes several topics so you can always uh, submit 1 to 3 topics per event. And if you have the knowledge, start answering questions in the Trailblazer community. This is by no means a list of everything you can do, but hope it gives you a place to get started. Other things you can consider are becoming a matter expert, working with a credentialing team when the opportunity arises. Uh, they are always looking for panels to give feedback on different things in Salesforce. So keep an eye out for those events. And again, or even the Salesforce Commons, you don't need the experience to necessarily be good at helping them because sometimes the newbie perspective is a good one. The desire to share your knowledge and bringing your passion goes a long way. So make sure to choose topics that excite you to speak about or choose leadership activities that you are passionate about. Keep your topics relevant. Be sure to keep up with the latest in Salesforce innovations and Trailhead updates. Find a way to track your submissions and abstracts and where you've applied. After you start applying to a number of them, it's very easy to forget what you submitted where. And you don't necessarily, some people submit the same topics to everywhere they go, and some people tailor it a little bit more for where they're submitting it to. So either one works. Just find what works for you. And don't forget to keep trying, even if you're unsuccessful. Most events get so many applications, they just don't have the space for everybody. And it's not that they dislike your session, it's just they don't necessarily have room for it. And if you are doing a presentation and it doesn't work out well, it just may need some tweaks to redo it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad presentation. So hopefully you have somebody you know in your audience that can give you some feedback and you can help improve that way. Be your authentic self. This not only inspires trust, but it also allows other people to engage with you. When you are at events, be sure to ask questions or provide relevant feedback if it's necessary. And always make a point to meet some new people, even if it's only 1 or 2 at each event you go to. Expanding your network is great for helping improve not only your ability to speak, but also your support network to support you along the way. And be sure to share and connect with your audience when you present. The unfortunate part about recording this is I can't get immediate feedback, but hopefully we'll get some feedback on the actual when we're actually presenting this, and hopefully you can appreciate what I'm talking about. So, what are some of the benefits of doing all these things? You boost your self confidence, you enhance your leadership skills, expanding your professional network. To be honest, I haven't had a single job that I didn't get because I was with my network. Anything I applied to, I never got. Any jobs or clients I got were because somebody else recommended them to me. Uh, your skill development is continuous. You are learning as you prepare for presentations. And even when you're doing your presentations, there is something to be learned from your audience and comments that your audience will provide you. You increase your influence in the ecosystem. You elevate your professional profile, and people will notice you more. And it's just a great sense of personal fulfillment. So, in conclusion, look at overcoming your limits. Be sure to embrace learning, expand your network, step into leadership roles, whether it's facilitating a group or a study group or one of the other items that are out there. Be sure to lead authentically. And remember, your unique perspective is needed in the community. So speak up and let it be heard. And your challenge, I would like in the next week or so, commit to one small action, whether it's joining a local or virtual group or meeting, whether it's offering to share your experiences to one of these groups, or perhaps submit as a call for proposal for a dreaming event. And even better if it's for an event that is out of your comfort zone. I wish you a lot of luck and feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And I'd like to leave you with this quote. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. I want to thank you all for attending, and now we will open it to Q&A.